The hidden talent of Zayan, a different kind of boy. Zayan was not like the other boys in his class. While most children loved playing cricket after school or scrolling through games on their phones, Zayan loved something else. He loved to open broken things. A broken fan, an old toy car, a rusty radio. Anything that no longer worked always caught his attention. He would sit for hours on the floor of his small room, surrounded by screws, wires, and tiny parts, trying to understand how everything worked inside. His mother would often shake her head and say, "Zayan, one day you will turn this whole house into a junkyard." But deep inside, she was proud of him. She knew her son was not lazy. He was a hard-working boy with a sharp mind, even if his grades in school were not the best. At Bright Future Secondary School, Zayan always felt different. His English teacher often said, "Zayan, you must read more books. Your grammar is weak, and your marks are not improving." Zayan tried. He really did. But no matter how much he read, the words seemed too heavy. He worked harder than most of his classmates, but his exam scores were still average. Other boys laughed at him. "Hey Zayan, when will you stop fixing broken toys and start fixing your marks?" one of them joked. Zayan smiled quietly, but inside he felt hurt. He wished people could see that success is not only about marks. He wanted to prove that he was capable of something greater. Zayan lived in a small town with his parents and younger sister, Hania. His father worked as a mechanic in a small workshop. The income was just enough for food and school fees, nothing more. After school, instead of playing outside, Zayan often helped his father in the workshop. He learned how to repair bicycles, tighten screws, and even fix small machines. His hands became skillful, and his mind grew more curious. Every evening, after helping his father, he sat near a weak lantern in his room. With old tools and thrown-away items, he tried to make small machines work again. Sometimes he succeeded, sometimes he failed, but he never gave up. One Monday morning, the principal of Bright Future School made an announcement in assembly. "Students, we are going to hold a science and innovation fair next month. This is your chance to show creativity and new ideas. The best project will be sent to the National Science Exhibition." The whole school buzzed with excitement. Students started talking about solar robots, colorful volcanoes, and electric cars. Zayan's heart beat fast. He thought, "This is my chance. This is the moment to prove myself." But then reality hit him. He had no money to buy fancy materials. Other kids could order expensive kits online, but Zayan only had old junk from the workshop. For a moment, he felt hopeless. But then he remembered his father's words. "Son, it is not the cost of material that makes something valuable. It is the mind that builds it." That night, Zayan could not sleep. His mind kept racing with ideas. What could he make with limited resources? What invention could be useful for people? Suddenly, he remembered how many families in his town struggled with dirty drinking water. Children often fell sick. What if he could create a low-cost water purifier using simple items? His eyes shone with determination. "Yes," he whispered to himself, "I will build something that can change lives." Beginning of the dream. The next day, he shared his idea with his father. His father looked at him with surprise and then slowly smiled. "That's a big dream, Zayan, but I believe in you. If anyone can do it with scraps and broken parts, it's you." Zayan's mother, worried but supportive, gave him a small box of savings, a few coins and notes she had hidden for emergencies. "This is not much, Beta," she said softly, "but maybe it can help you buy a few things you need." Zayan felt his heart fill with love. He knew his family was sacrificing for him. He promised himself, "I will not waste this chance. I will work harder than ever." The journey begins. From that day, Zayan's routine changed completely. Morning, school and classes. Afternoon, helping father in the workshop. Evening till late night, working on his purifier project. He collected old plastic bottles, sand, charcoal, and pipes from junkyards. He asked neighbors for unused items. Slowly, step by step, he began to build the model. It was not easy. Many times the water still looked dirty, Many times the system broke apart. His hands got cut, his clothes got dirty, but his spirit remained strong. One night, when everyone was asleep, Zayan sat under the dim lantern. He whispered to himself, "I am not just building a machine, I am building my future." The news of the upcoming science and innovation fair spread quickly through Bright Future School. Everywhere, students were buzzing with excitement. Some had already started ordering expensive science kits online, while others bragged about the robots and solar cars they would build. Zayan listened quietly to their conversations. He had no fancy kit, no shiny tools, and no money to waste. But inside his heart, he carried something stronger: determination. The first attempt. One evening, after finishing work at his father's workshop, Zayan sat in his small room with a pile of broken bottles, charcoal, sand, and plastic pipes. His idea was simple: create a purifier that filtered dirty water step by step. He built his first model with great care. He poured muddy water into the top bottle, hoping clean water would come out from the other end. But instead, the bottle cracked, and all the water spilled on the floor. Hania, his younger sister, peeked inside the room and laughed. Are you making a purifier or a swimming pool?" Zayan laughed too, but deep inside, he felt the sting of failure. For a moment, he thought, maybe I cannot do this, maybe the other kids were right. But then he remembered his father's words: failures are not the end, son, they are just the steps to success. Wiping his hands, Zayan whispered to himself, I will try again, no matter how many times I fail. The next day at school, while Zayan was collecting empty bottles from the playground dustbin, a group of classmates saw him. "Look at him," one boy shouted. "Are you the new garbage collector?" Another laughed loudly. "Maybe Zayan will build his project from trash. Let's call it the garbage machine." The group burst into laughter. Zayan's face turned red, but he stayed quiet. Inside, his heart hurt, but his determination grew stronger. He thought, let them laugh. One day, this garbage will shine brighter than their fancy robots. Every night, after his family went to bed, Zayan stayed awake. The dim lantern light flickered, but his focus never broke. His fingers worked with wires, bottles, and sand. Sometimes he failed. Sometimes the water came out only slightly cleaner. Sometimes the pipes leaked. But each failure taught him something new. Slowly, he learned the right combination: sand for large particles, charcoal for bacteria, cotton for fine dust. With each trial, his model became better, but the process was tiring. His eyes burned with sleep, and his hands ached. Some nights, he almost gave up. Yet, the picture of sick children in his town reminded him of his goal. I am not just doing this for me, he whispered, I am doing this for them. One afternoon, while Zayan was sketching his purifier model in the classroom, his science teacher, Mr. Khalid, noticed him. What are you working on, Zayan? He asked. Zayan hesitated, afraid the teacher might laugh at his poor materials. But then he explained his idea. Mr. Khalid listened carefully, his eyes widening with surprise. Zayan, this is brilliant. It's not about how shiny or expensive your project looks. It's about the impact. If your purifier works, it can save lives. Keep working hard, and don't lose hope. Zayan felt his chest fill with courage. For the first time, someone outside his family believed in him. The day of testing. A week later, Zayan finally completed a working model. His hands trembled as he poured muddy water into the top bottle. Slowly, drop by drop, clear water started coming out from the bottom. It wasn't perfect, but it was drinkable. His sister clapped with joy. His mother's eyes filled with tears. His father patted his back proudly. You did it, son, his father said softly. This is just the beginning. Even though the purifier worked, Zayan knew the real challenge was still ahead, the science fair. He had only 2 weeks left, and he needed to make his model stronger, cleaner, and more presentable. Other kids were showing shiny models with blinking lights, moving robots, and expensive solar cars. Compared to them, Zayan's purifier looked plain and simple. But Zayan told himself, true value is not in the looks. True value is in the purpose. The morning of the Science and Innovation Fair arrived like a storm. The entire school was decorated with colorful banners. Parents, teachers, and even some guests from nearby schools were invited. Every classroom turned into a small exhibition hall filled with models, posters, and excited students. Zayan stood outside his classroom, holding his purifier model carefully. His hands were shaking. The bottles, pipes, and filters looked plain compared to the shiny robots and glowing volcanoes other students carried inside. What if they laugh at me? What if my purifier stops working in front of everyone? He thought nervously. But then he closed his eyes and whispered, "No fear, Zayan, you worked hard. You did this for people, not for trophies." As the fair began, the classrooms buzzed with voices. Students proudly explained their projects: a solar-powered car with blinking lights, a robot that could move forward and backward, a model of a colorful volcano that erupted with red foam. Crowds gathered around these projects, clapping and cheering. Judges nodded with polite smiles, impressed by the flashy designs. When people passed Zayan's corner, many only glanced at his simple purifier and walked away. Some students whispered, "Look, it's just bottles and sand. That can't win against robots." Zayan heard them, but he stayed calm. Finally, the panel of judges entered his classroom. They were senior teachers, scientists, and a guest from the district science council. Students straightened their ties and prepared their speeches. When the judges stopped at Zayan's table, he took a deep breath. His heart pounded like a drum. One judge asked, "What do you have here, young man?" Zayan's voice shook at first, but then he remembered Mr. Khalid's encouragement. "Sir, this is a low-cost water purifier. It is made from recycled materials, bottles, sand, charcoal, and cotton. Many people in my town suffer from dirty water. My purifier can clean it enough to make it drinkable. It is cheap, easy to make, and can save lives." The judges leaned forward, suddenly more interested. "Can you show us how it works?" one of them asked. The demonstration. With trembling hands, Zayan poured muddy water into the top bottle. The room went silent. Drop by drop, clear water started coming out from the bottom pipe into a glass. The crowd gasped. "Wow, it's actually clean," one teacher exclaimed. The judges carefully inspected the glass. One of them even tasted a drop of water. "Impressive," he said. "It's simple, but it works." The crowd that once ignored Zayan now surrounded his table. Students who had laughed earlier stared in shock. The judges asked, "How much does this cost to make?" "Less than 100 rupees, Zayan replied confidently. "Can villagers make it themselves?" "Yes, sir. Anyone can build it with simple instructions." The judges nodded with satisfaction. One whispered to the others, "This is not just science, it's service to humanity." The results. At the end of the day, everyone gathered in the school hall. The principal stepped onto the stage with the judge's final decision. In third place, he announced, the solar-powered car. Applause filled the room. In second place, the moving robot. More cheers. And in first place, the principal paused, smiling, Zayan Ahmed, for his low-cost water purifier. The hall erupted with applause. Zayan's eyes widened in shock. For a moment, he couldn't move. His classmates pushed him forward, and Mr. Khalid gave him a proud pat on the back. As he walked onto the stage to receive his certificate and medal, he looked at the crowd. Many of the same boys who once mocked him were now clapping. The moral victory. That night, Zayan sat quietly in his room with the medal in his hands. He whispered to himself, "This is just the beginning. Hard work, patience, and purpose can change everything." But the biggest surprise came when his principal called his father the next day. "Your son's project has been selected for the National Science Exhibition. He will represent our school and our city." Zayan's parents cried with joy. His sister danced around the house. For the first time, Zayan truly believed, "Yes, I can achieve anything if I never give up." The road to nationals. The news spread like wildfire. "Did you hear? Zayan is going to represent our school at the National Science Exhibition." For many students, it was shocking. The boy they once called garbage collector was now carrying the pride of the entire school. Zayan felt both proud and nervous. Winning at school was one thing, but competing against the best students in the whole country was another. He knew the national level would be filled with advanced projects, robots, drones, artificial intelligence machines. His purifier suddenly looked too simple. That night, as he sat on the rooftop under the stars, doubts filled his mind. Can my plain purifier really stand against those high-tech inventions? But then he remembered the clear water drops falling into the glass, the surprised faces of the judges, and the joy in his parents' eyes. He clenched his fist. Yes, it is not about being fancy. It's about being useful. If my invention can save lives, then it already matters. A teacher's guidance. The next morning, Mr. Khalid called Zayan to the science lab. Zayan, congratulations once again, but the nationals won't be easy. You need to make your purifier stronger, more reliable, and professional looking. Zayan nodded eagerly. Sir, I will work as hard as needed. Together, they worked after school every day. Mr. Khalid taught him how to make his explanation clear in English, how to present confidently, and how to test his purifier with different water samples. Remember, Zayan, Mr. Khalid said, half the battle is in the mind. If you speak with confidence, people will believe in you. At home, money was a problem again. The family could not afford better tools or extra materials for the model, but Zayan refused to quit. He started taking small repair jobs after school, fixing bicycles, repairing old radios, even polishing shoes at times. Every coin he earned went into improving his purifier. His mother often worried, Beta, don't overwork yourself. You are still young. But Zayan smiled and replied, Amy, dreams are not built in comfort. They are built in hard work. Not everyone was happy with Zayan's success. Some students who had lost to him in the school fair whispered behind his back, he just got lucky. Nationals, he won't last a minute there. One boy, Hamza, who had made the robot car, felt especially jealous. My project was way better. Everyone knows robots are the future. Not his silly purifier. But Zayan ignored the whispers. He had no time for jealousy. His focus was only on working harder. One evening, while testing his purifier, Zayan noticed the water was clean, but still had a strange smell. He frowned. If this goes to nationals, it must be perfect. He spent hours experimenting, trying new materials. Finally, he discovered that adding a simple cloth layer soaked in lemon juice removed the bad odor. The water tasted fresher. He jumped with excitement. Yes, this is it. Now it's ready. Finally, the day came. Zayan packed his purifier carefully in a wooden box. His parents hugged him tightly. His father's eyes were moist but proud. Son, no matter what happens there, remember you already won in our hearts. His mother whispered a prayer. May your hard work shine brighter than gold. As the school bus arrived to take him, and a few other students to the capital city, Zayan felt his stomach twist with nervousness. He looked out of the bus window as his small town disappeared behind him. For the first time in his life, he was stepping outside his comfort zone, into a world bigger than he had ever imagined. When the bus reached the capital, Zayan's eyes widened. Tall buildings touched the sky, roads were filled with cars, and lights glowed everywhere. He felt like a small fish in a giant ocean. The National Science Exhibition Hall was massive. Hundreds of students from different schools were setting up their projects, drones flying in the air, AI robots talking, solar machines running smoothly. Zayan placed his simple purifier on the table. Compared to the glittering technology around him, it looked almost invisible. For a moment, doubt crept back into his mind, but then he touched the purifier gently and whispered, You are not just bottles and sand. You are hope for many lives. That is enough. The national stage. The National Science Exhibition Hall was alive with energy. The ceiling lights shone brightly, the air buzzed with voices, and rows of tables were filled with projects from all over the country. Some projects blinked with neon lights, some moved with motors, and some even spoke with pre-recorded voices.
Zayan carefully placed his water purifier on his table. Around him, Students were busy polishing their robots and checking their laptops. His project looked so small, so simple. For a moment, he felt invisible. A group of students from an elite school in Islamabad walked past his table. They stopped, looked at his bottles and pipes, and laughed. "Is this a science project, or a kitchen experiment?" one boy mocked. Another added, "At nationals, you need real technology, not junkyard toys." Zayan's cheeks burned, but he stayed calm. He remembered his father's words, "Dignity is stronger than anger." He simply smiled and said, "Sometimes the simplest things save the biggest lives." The boy scoffed and walked away, but one of the judges standing nearby overheard his words and raised an eyebrow with curiosity. Soon, the exhibition officially started. Judges, scientists, and reporters walked through the hall, listening to each student. Crowds gathered around fancy projects, robots shaking hands, drones flying overhead, and solar-powered vehicles. When the judges finally reached Zayan's table, he took a deep breath. His heart pounded, but his voice remained steady. "Respected judges, my name is Zayan. This is a low-cost water purifier. It is made from recycled materials like bottles, sand, charcoal, and cotton. In many villages, people suffer from diseases because of dirty water. My invention provides clean, drinkable water at a very low cost. Anyone can build it." The judges nodded, interested. One of them asked, "Can you demonstrate it for us?" Zayan poured muddy water into the top bottle. The hall grew silent. Everyone leaned forward to watch. Drop by drop, clear water began to fall into the glass below. The water looked pure and fresh. One judge tasted it carefully and smiled. "Remarkable. It's clean." The crowd murmured in surprise. Reporters started snapping photos. But one judge wanted to test him further. "Zayan, this is excellent, but tell us, how is your project better than advanced purifiers already in the market?" For a moment, Zayan froze. He knew expensive purifiers existed. His English wavered, but then he remembered Mr. Khalid's advice, "Speak with confidence." He replied, "Sir, those purifiers are too costly for poor families. My model costs less than 100 rupees. It can be built by villagers themselves using local materials. It may not compete with machines in the city, but in villages, it can save thousands of lives." The hall echoed with applause. Even the judge who asked the question smiled with respect. Soon, a local news reporter approached him. "Zayan, where are you from?" "I am from a small town," he answered shyly. "And what inspired you to build this purifier?" Zayan's eyes softened. "In my town, many children fell sick because of dirty water. I wanted to help them. I didn't have money for big projects, but I had determination, so I built this." The reporter smiled warmly. "A hard-working boy with a big heart. This will inspire many." By the end of the first day, Zayan's project had gained attention. Teachers, judges, and even some scientists praised his creativity. But not everyone was happy. The same jealous group of boys whispered angrily, "If his simple purifier wins, it will be an insult to us." One of them muttered, "We'll make sure he doesn't stand a chance tomorrow." Zayan didn't hear them. That night, as he lay in the hostel bed provided by the organizers, he thought about the day. His body was tired, but his heart was hopeful. "I came this far. I cannot stop now. Tomorrow will decide everything." The second day of the national exhibition arrived. The hall was filled with excitement because today the judges would decide the winners. Students polished their projects, checking every detail again and again. Zayan reached his table early. He carefully adjusted his purifier, cleaned the bottles, and made sure everything was in place. But when he turned to get some water for testing, something shocking happened. When he came back, he saw muddy fingerprints on his purifier. The pipes were twisted, and some of the cotton filters were missing. His heart sank. Someone tampered with my project," he whispered. He quickly checked again. The purifier was leaking from the sides. If he demonstrated like this, dirty water would spill everywhere. From the corner of his eye, he saw the same jealous group of boys smirking at him. They whispered to each other and laughed. For a moment, Zayan's hands shook with anger. "Should I shout? Should I tell the judges?" he thought. But then he remembered his father's advice, "Son, anger destroys wisdom. Solve problems with patience, not rage." Taking a deep breath, Zayan whispered, "No, I will not give up. I will fix this." Time was running out. Judges were already moving closer. Zayan's mind raced. He borrowed some extra cotton from a kind girl at the next table, and asked a janitor for tape. With trembling hands, he patched the pipes and replaced the missing filter. Sweat rolled down his forehead. The judges were now only 2 tables away. His project looked rough, but at least it was working again. "Please, Allah, let this be enough," he prayed silently. Finally, the judges stood before him. One of them asked, "So, Zayan, ready to show us your purifier again?" Zayan nodded nervously. With shaking hands, he poured muddy water into the top bottle. For a moment, nothing happened. A few drops leaked from the side, and he thought his heart would stop. Then, slowly, clear water began to drip into the glass. The hall grew silent again. Everyone leaned forward. The water wasn't crystal perfect, but it was clean enough to drink. The judge lifted the glass, observed it carefully, and smiled. "Still clean, despite the rough look. Your invention works." Applause filled the room. Zayan exhaled deeply, relief washing over him. But suddenly, one of the teachers noticed the twisted pipes and missing parts. "Zayan, your purifier looks damaged. What happened?" Before Zayan could reply, the kind girl from the next table stepped forward. "Sir, I saw some boys near his project when he left. They did something to it." The hall buzzed with murmurs. The jealous boys turned pale. The principal frowned deeply. "If this is true, it is shameful. Science is not about destroying others. It is about building for humanity." The boys were disqualified immediately. Zayan, however, chose silence. He didn't shout or insult them. He simply said, "Mistakes happen. What matters is that we learn from them." His maturity impressed everyone even more than his invention. The final ceremony began in the grand auditorium. Students sat nervously as the principal and judges announced the winners. In third place, the Solar Drone Project. Loud applause. In second place, the AI Robot Assistant. Cheers echoed. And in first place, the project that combined creativity, usefulness, and the spirit of true science. Zayan Ahmed, for his low-cost water purifier. The crowd exploded with claps and cheers. Reporters rushed to take photos. Teachers smiled with pride. Mr. Khalid's eyes filled with tears of joy. Zayan walked onto the stage, holding his purifier carefully. He accepted the gold medal and certificate with trembling hands. For a moment, he could hardly believe it. The boy once mocked as garbage collector was now the national winner. A reporter asked him, "Zayan, how do you feel right now?" Zayan smiled humbly. "I am thankful. This project is not just mine. It belongs to my father, who taught me to work with machines, to my mother, who gave me her savings, to my sister, who encouraged me, and to my teacher, who believed in me. I only worked hard and never gave up."
Another reporter asked, "What is your dream now?" Zayan's eyes shone. "I want to study engineering and create inventions that help poor people. Science should not only be for the rich, it should be for everyone." The hall filled with applause again. Returning home, when Zayan returned to his small town, people welcomed him like a hero. Children ran to greet him, neighbors decorated the street, and his family embraced him with tears of pride. He placed the gold medal in his father's hands, and said, "This is for you, Abu. You always believed in me." His father's voice shook. "No, son. This is yours. You proved that hard work and honesty can overcome every obstacle." The legacy. Years later, Zayan used his scholarship to become an engineer. He didn't move abroad permanently like many others. Instead, he returned to his country, building low-cost machines for poor villages, water purifiers, solar lamps, and affordable farming tools. He opened a small innovation school, where children from poor families could learn for free. Standing before his students, he often said, "Remember, success is not about how shiny or expensive your project looks. Success is about how many lives you touch. Never give up, even if people laugh at you. Hard work always wins." And the children, inspired by his journey, believed him. Moral of the story: hard work and patience can defeat any obstacle. Real education is not about marks. It is about making life better for others. True victory lies not in showing off, but in staying humble and useful.